Hello, this is my generic intro for 4 videos this week, so if you've seen it once, go ahead and skip to the first deck tech. I got early access to Modern Horizons 3 cards through the MTGO Content Creator Program. Shout out to Torben and everyone at Daybreak Games for making this happen. So I have recorded an absolute ton of matches with Modern Horizons 3 stuff. What I chose to do was do a deck tech and then do 1 or maybe 2 rounds with a deck and then switch decks. So this week is going to be like deck tech game, deck tech game, deck tech game, going back and forth. I have tried to organize these in a way where I am releasing these as a batch of 4 videos in a way that makes sense. I have occasionally posted these out of the order in which they were originally recorded, so if I refer to something weird that you haven't seen yet, no, I didn't. I hope you all enjoy. My brain was absolute mush as I sat down and recorded Modern Horizons 3 matches for 6 hours straight. Especially in one of the final rounds, I made some errors that were pretty big, but I hope you'll forgive me. And folks, I hope you enjoy. There's some crazy content coming this week. You are not going to want to miss any of it. And just so I don't have to disrupt the flow of this video, which is going to be absolutely hype, let me just say from the beginning, today's video is sponsored by 2 organizations. The first is toamagic.com. Tales of Adventure is an awesome store, and Modern Horizons 3 is going to massively shake up the legacy metagame. You are going to need cards. If you want to get it from one retailer instead of having 10,000 envelopes filtering into your house or your apartment over the next 2 weeks, consider checking them out. You will get free shipping on your order. And today's video is also sponsored by Moxfield.com. You know, that wonderful little thing that I'm using for all of my deck techs? All of my Modern Horizons 3 lists are available on my Moxfield account. And if you want to check out any of my deck lists, that is the place to go. And if you need to host any deck lists of your own, check them out. Let's take a look at what 20 Post might look like. We're very used to Cloud Post serving as a way to power out very large colorless creatures, but Modern Horizons 3 is going to give us multiple cards that have the Locus type that is going to power up our Cloud Posts. So Planar Nexus is everything. Trench Post is a Locus that can also serve as a win condition, because some blue decks just literally will go through half of their deck anyway in a game, and a couple activations of a Trench Post could literally just go and mill our opponent out. We also get Urza's Cave, which is maybe unexciting as a whole, but if it specifically allows us to turn all of this extra colorless mana that we have anyway into maybe additional copies of Cloud Post or find our Eye of Ugin when we need it, that's kind of a big deal. So this list might be memeing a little bit, but its general idea is to play Eldrazi that get value when you cast them specifically, so that even if your Eldrazi gets countered, you still get to do something. So Devourer of Destiny is kind of like a weird once upon a time effect if you start the game with it, and when you cast it, you get to exile target permanent that's 1 or more colors. And then Sowing Mycospawn is 4 mana with the Void, so it is colorless still. When you cast a spell, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle. And if you have another 2 mana to kick it, which you hopefully do as you're a giant mana deck, you can also exile target land. So I think this is a callback to a card named Reap and Sow, which was, I think, a common that did a similar sort of thing, but now it's attached to an Eldrazi creature. And we have Ulamog the Defiler as well. When you cast it, target opponent exiles half their library, rounded up. If your opponent wants to target it, they have to sacrifice 2 permanents, and it enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. Oh, and it also gets Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So this deck is looking to go very, very big, and it features another card from the sideboard, Vexing Bauble. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. So, you're trying to do something unfair? I say no. You're trying to vomit baubles into play? I say no. Force of Will? No. Solitude? No. Unless you pay 5 mana for it, and then it's fine. And, hypothetically, if we needed to cast our own spell without paying mana for some reason, we can also just sacrifice our bauble, draw a card, and then cast our own spells here. Yeah, let's see how this does. Okay, I have the ability to make a bunch of land drops with exploration here. I don't really have anything to do. I'm not the most excited about this in multiples. I'm just gonna mulligan this hand. Hope I'm not playing against a blue deck. So let's Devourer of Destiny here. So we're going to look at the top 4 cards of our library. We can put one of them back on top and exile the rest. I don't know who my opponent is, but they said we came to game. So I think I just want Planar Nexus here. I think I'm going to intend on crop rotationing away the Boseiju. And then we'll use Vesuva to copy. Is an Ancient Tomb or Vexing Bauble. Nice. That is going to resolve. See if my opponent cashes it in immediately. They do. So do I want to draw Planar Nexus? I guess what am I crop rotationing for? I assume it's Cloud Post, in which case I think I am okay drawing my next card. So let's just go ahead and crop rotation. Pick up Cloud Post. Vesuva, copy Cloud Post. Next turn, I'm going to have another Locus. So next turn, I just go 3, 6, 7. I just cast Devourer of Destiny on turn 3? Oh my god. That's hot. Oh, opponent's also an Eldrazi gamer. There's a new red Eldrazi. I forget what it does. Opponent is kind enough to tell us. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature gets haste and plus X plus O, which is the number of Eldrazi you control. Oh shit, so it's just a 3/3 haste base. Sweet. This is devoid, humorously. Alright, so this is every non-basic land type. 3, 6, 7. So I am going to play Devourer of Destiny. I can't exile a permanent that's more than 1 colors. There isn't anything. So I have the bigger creature, and I can back up what I am doing with the One Ring. This new format is super fucking exciting, folks. It is another Eldrazi Linebreaker. So that is going to trigger multiple times? Oh god. So my opponent can put those both on the same one if they would like. They would not like. Yeah, this is a 6/6, so... I mean, if I'm walking into a trap, I'm walking into a trap. Like, show me your Dismember or whatever. Nope. Yeah, they could double up on 1 to get that in as a valid attack. Pithing Needle, not the best here. Let's play the One Ring, though. That lets me go ahead and take a crack in at my opponent. Boseiju. Yeah. Well, maybe Boseiju is just a land destruction spell. I don't know if my opponent has wastes. I'll crack for 6. Opponent's at 10. I guess we can find out, right? So let's Boseiju, I think the Ancient Tomb. Let's see if there's a basic in there. There is a basic mountain. Understood. I need to name something weird here, like maybe Walking Ballista, Umezawa's Jitte. I'm gonna go with something that can just send direct damage at my face. I guess I could name Wasteland as well. But it doesn't super seem like mana is a bottleneck. Oh, I see. This is the Lord. Yeah, so my opponent is way closer to an aggro deck than I am. There's a new Vexing Bauble. My opponent can cycle that immediately. Okay, yeah, no attacks or anything. I'll lose 1 from the One Ring. Do I have any anti-aggro lands in here? I have Glimmer Posts. Hell yeah. Okay. So let's draw cards with the One Ring, see if I draw a new Locus or anything. I draw a new body. So I think I will go ahead and make my attack immediately. See if my opponent wants to block. Oh, they do? Alright, I'm happy to see that. I don't think I have to crop rotation immediately. I think I can hold that as a trick and pass the turn. Opponent has an Eye of Ugin of their own. They've got their own Devourer of Destiny, which they can give it haste with the Line Breaker trigger. So they can hit me for 8, in theory 9, 10, but my crop rotation is going to solve my problems here. So, yeah. And then I have lethal on the crackback. I'm not sure why they conceded there. I don't think I showed them the crop rotation in any way. But if I block like that, they must know a trick is coming. Okay. Glacial Chasm is probably actively good for me. Dismembers seem like they end up saving me life. I don't know whether or not my opponent's mana base contains Wasteland. The Devourer of Destinies are much worse than normal in this matchup. Until I see Wasteland, I think I'm going to take out Pithing Needle. I'm not 100% sure whether or not my opponent is going to have it. We are very much in brew territory right now. And what does the cave do? Oh, that's the slow tutor. Trench Post is mill. It's still a locus. I guess I will keep it in that regard. Let's get rid of Karakas and put a Glacial Chasm into the deck. This is hopefully fine. So, Forest, Exploration, tapped Cloud Post, turn 2, Planar Nexus, and crop rotation for another land. I have Dismember for an early aggressive threat. I need to draw something big. I think I'm just going to trust in my deck to draw something big and keep this. My opponent gets their own Devourer of Destiny cantrip. How does this work? Oh, okay. The rest gets exiled. So my opponent exiled 3 creatures. They perhaps took a land off of their spell. I don't eat a turn 1 Chalice of the Void, which is nice. I pick up another Locus, also nice. So, land, exploration, tapped Cloud Post. That's my turn. My opponent would, in theory, like to go under what I am doing. That's not the most mana-efficient play in the world. Ooh, do they have another thing? An endless one. It's been a hot minute since I've seen an endless one. Yeah, you've got it. So I can play Laner Nexus, Exploration, Urza's Cave, Trench Post. How much mana are you tapping for? You are tapping for 3 mana at this point. Let's go green mana off of that. Crop rotation, away the forest, pick up Eye of Ugin, and now we'll go 3 mana, search for a land card. I think I could have done this a little better. Yeah, I think I could have done this where I also killed my opponent's creature. Yeah, I think I could have done this in a way that dismembered if I tapped differently. Okay, looks like I'm going to take 4 damage in combat here. I'm at 16. Okay, there are wastelands in this deck. I've lost a Cloud Post. I think the Eye of Ugin is the best land that I control. What do you do again? Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. I assume that I still just have 6 mana. So this is 4, 5, 6. So we're going to cast this with Kicker. So we're going to exile my opponent's Eldrazi Temple, and I will search my library for a land card on top of that. I will pick up a new Cloud Post, exile my opponent's land. This is also a 3/3, so it walls those creatures. Disgusting. Planar Nexus being a locus that can also give me colored mana in a pinch is pretty strong. Yeah, that's just a 3/3 endless one. That is not going to keep up with the crimes that I am looking to commit over here. A new Cloud Post. So 5, 6, 7. Let's activate this. We are going to have 5 mana remaining. I will just pick up something that is castable right now. So we have 6 mana again. So we will cast this with Kicker. Exile one of my opponent's Cavern of Souls. Oh my god, this is just filthy. I think at this point I'm actually going to pick up a Yavimaya so that I can immediately dismember it that heralds the end. And I am the beatdown now, so I'm happy to attack. Yeah, we got the GG from our opponent here. That was absolutely filthy. Maybe Cloudpost is like seriously back on the menu again. So next I wanted to build a deck around Glaring Fleshraker. I think this card is busted, and it's just a question of how do we build around it. So it is a 2/2 for 3 mana, and it does require colorless mana. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, make a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token with sacrifice this to add a colorless mana. More importantly, whenever another colorless creature enters the battlefield under your control, Glaring Fleshraker deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this can turn Baubles and Friends into a win condition. You cast a Bauble, you get a 0/1 that produces a mana, and then you deal 1 damage to your opponent. So while this thing's offensive stats are not that good, this is a very good way to take advantage of vomiting a whole bunch of artifacts into play. And it so happens that there are other cards that also would like you to play a very large number of artifacts. I'm very interested in trying out this strategy alongside Sai. So you cast a Bauble, you get a trigger from both Sai and Glaring Fleshraker. That means that every Bauble now becomes 2 damage. And that's pretty cool. It's possible that it is better to play this with draw 7 effects like Echo of Eons. It's possible it's just better to play this with like a Mystic Forge Turbo Mana Shell. This is something I thought I could throw together relatively quickly. Getting the colorless mana for this deck does probably mean sacrificing some number of like Ottawaras and basic islands from the deck list, because your various like Lotus Petals, Mox Opals, and stuff don't actually cast Glaring Fleshraker. You need that true colorless in order to do that. As far as the sideboard goes, I think the only thing that's interesting here is that I am also trying out Vexing Bauble, despite the fact that I have a very large number of artifacts that don't cost any mana. That's kind of how hot I am on this card. As a reminder, you control this card, so if it is not good for you, you can play it out, get your trigger off it, sacrifice it, draw a card, and move on with your life. This is a symmetrical hate piece, but it's one that you can mitigate the downsides of it by paying a single mana when it is not good for you. Okay, so I can turn 1 Spire, Lotus Petal, Patchwork Automaton, Mishra's Bauble, cycle it, hope to hit another mana source to work towards Glaring Fleshraker. The hand is a little awkward. The Force of Will is actively bad. I need to take a look at this deck list real quick. I am just an Ancient Tomb deck. I think I can just do better than this. So this next one is significantly slower. I'm on the draw. I get another card. I don't think I like this. All right. Put the Lava Spur Boots back into the deck. I'll put the Force of Will back into the deck. And we'll hope that Patchwork Automaton plus Urza Saga can do some work. This is not our ideal. And we've got a Ponder. All right. Spire, Lotus Petal, Patchwork, which I'm hoping resolves. It does. The Ward 2 on this is super, super useful. I will cast both of these immediately. We'll take a look at the top card of Brian's library. It's currently a Misty Rainforest, and then I'll do the other one of these on his turn. Pick up an Urza's Bauble. I don't mind just repeatedly drawing Baubles to scale this up. Sure. Now we'll take a look over there. It is a wasteland. That means my Urza Saga is absolutely in danger. Thoughtcast. Sure. So I do this. I control 2 artifacts. I am going to just cycle this immediately. There's a Source of Plowshares over there, so my Patchwork Automaton is not long for this world. I'm going to play Spire and hope that Spire eats Wasteland instead of this Urza Saga that's in my hand. Artifact land is not the worst. Brian might just make the land drop and intend on Swords to Plowsharing Patchwork Automaton. That is happening in my upkeep. So I lose this. Multiple Urza Sagas. So my Thoughtcast costs 4 mana if I play this land. I'm going to play my first Urza Saga and pass the turn. Assuming that it gets wastelanded, I'll then start trying to do things with another Urza Saga in a minute. Yeah. Brainstorm's fine. And just land drop and pass. This is a slower paced game than the previous game. Fleshraker is fine. Is it Seat and Fleshraker or Urza Saga and Fleshraker? I think it's Seat and Fleshraker. And then in theory, I would like to Thoughtcast next turn, draw a bunch of 0-drops, and start pinging my opponent. Brian says absolutely not. Got end of turn fetch, presumably for a Surveil land. Alright, there is Nadu, so we'll just kind of see how crazy this gets. So Shuko can still activate targeting Nadu when Nadu is the only one equipped. That was not all that crazy, honestly. So, Urza's Saga. So, Force of Will was revealed. Let's Thoughtcast. Okay, cool. So I have some gas, assuming that Nadu does not just eat me alive, which it very well might. Like, this is, essentially draw 2 every turn, and some of those cards you draw go directly into play. So this is powerful. And Uro is going to be coming another turn down the line, which is not great for me. It's another Shuko. That doesn't do too much. But I am still just eating 5 damage. Like, that is still very much a thing that is happening here. So I will make my Urza Saga token so that I can control 2 artifacts, and I can just immediately play an Emery. That is a Force of Will pitching a Brainstorm. My opponent is at 14. I have some ability to punch them hard, but now we're going to see another force. Oh gosh. Now we're going to see Noble Hierarch come down, or just Uro come back, honestly. Like, Uro could come back, do 2 more Shuko activations, then that could potentially put Noble Hierarch into play afterwards. Yeah, not great for me here. Field of the Dead is also going to start triggering. I think for the sake of testing here, like, that's good. I can Pithing Needle Shuko, and that is very actively good. I think I like Dismember well enough. Ball Breacher actually doesn't really stop Nadu, because it's not card draw. I think my opponent's Force of Wills are much better than my own Force of Wills. I'm not the most interested in the counterspells. Creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield, so Nadu is putting them to hand and putting the land into play. Grafter's Cage can mess with Uro. That's an okay option. I could fill the deck with Shadow Spear or 1 Vexing Bauble. I think Vexing Bauble does much more damage to me, though. I'm gonna keep 1 Metallic Rebuke. Okay, this does not have super fast mana. This feels awkward. Like, if I'm using I would like to cast Patchwork into Patchwork, but sometimes that doesn't go well. I think I'm going to keep this anyway. Just kind of accepting that this is awkward. So we're going to take Shuko out of the equation, and we'll just kind of see how this goes. I'm really reliant on drawing another mana source off the top. I just never saw Ancient Tomb to kind of get this hand going, which is unfortunate. This deck may be a little bit too top-heavy. I think still just going to play Patchwork Automaton over Dismember plus Grafter's Cage. I think if I win this game, I am winning it via aggro means, so let's get said aggro elements into play. So there's a fetch land to clear the Brainstorm. We could be facing down something scary like Stoneforge Mystic, in which case I dismember that. It is Stoneforge. But now Brian can just pick up Kaldra instead of Shuko. Yep. It's another Dismember. That's not super what I am looking for here. I could take out the Noble Hierarch. I am not going to. I'm going to go ahead and cast Grafdigger's Cage and kind of live with the awkwardness of this hand. Maybe this deck just doesn't function without Ancient Tomb in the opener. Alright, it's another Stoneforge Mystic. I have another Dismember for that, but it certainly makes my Urza Saga more awkward. And there goes the Pithing Needle on Shuko. Quite obviously scary. So, I'm going to float a mana. I think I need mana. So I am going to go 1, 2, 3 for the Fleshraker. Cast Lotus Petal. And now we are going to start doing damage when I cast colorless spells, which is great. I am going to dismember Stoneforge Mystic. I think keeping my spawn. Hitting in for 3. And we have to just kind of hope that Nadu into Shuko does not just happen immediately. And that I get a little bit of time to deal damage with these creatures. Patchwork Automaton scales up the other Patchwork Automaton and represents direct damage with the Fleshraker. Oh, yep. So we need to aggro our little butts over the line here. Yeah. Cast Patchwork. I think I'm going to hold this because this is sometimes actual points of damage as it helps me push a blocker out of the way. Ah, fuck. There it is. There's the bird. So my opponent is going to start doing their thing. They get 2 more activations. We're hoping no land. Alright, that's a land, but it's an ETB tapped land at the very least. Okay, Ancient Tomb. That's not bad. So let's Otawara the Nadu. This is going to cause Nadu to trigger. Thanks, I hate it. Yeah. So Nadu triggers. Finding another Nadu. I will send in 5 points of damage. Opponent's at 3. I don't know that I can sneak over the line here. That is an ETB tapped land, which I guess is kind of neat with Nadu's ability, right? Alright, opponent is just holding up mana. Oh no, end step, dress down to remove the abilities from my creatures. Sure. And then swords, Patchwork Automaton. Fantastic play from my opponent. So this is... am I paying life? I think I'm paying life here. I'll Thoughtcast. Oh, deck. Oh, deck. That was not the time for that. Brian did not equip Shuko to Noble Hierarch. So I get to push a point of damage here. Now Dress Down gets sacrificed. And I think the Nadu nonsense that happens now is just going to be good enough to beat me. The Uro is not super threatening, but this much card draw, air quotes card draw when my board is already this weak. That's Field of the Dead. I can't really concede because it's possible to just like, what is it, Glaring Fleshraker the last couple points of damage, but it feels like this just beats me enough of the time that for the sake of getting more matches in, I'm going to toss in the towel. GG's. Let's take a look at a new way we could build a Mono Black Aggro deck list. Nethergoyf is a pretty interesting card, with power equal to the number of card types in your graveyard, and toughness equal to that number plus 1. So this is a 1-mana pseudo-Tarmogoyf that only looks at your graveyard, but it has Escape for 3 mana, and exiling any number of other cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. So not only is this an early aggro creature, if it just goes to your graveyard and dies, or is thought seized or whatever, it can come back later. And we know that recursion is good. And there's also another Goyf, Barrowgoyf, which has Death Touch and Lifelink. This one is power equal to the number of card types in all graveyards, and toughness equal to that number plus 1. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you may put a creature card from among them into your hand. So 4 or 5 power is probably going to be about the norm when this thing hits. And that's a lot of mill. This is kind of like casting a cantrip when it deals combat damage. And the cards that you probably want to find most of the time are creatures, and we have 23 of them. So without running the numbers, there's a pretty good chance that this is going to cantrip most of the time. This is also an Urza's Saga deck, meaning that we can run Vexing Bauble as a tutored target. And I think this is pretty attractive. We do have Ancient Tombs in this deck still. So we can turn 1 Urza's Saga, turn 2 Ancient Tomb activate, turn 3 Ancient Tomb activate, Vexing Bauble in play, and before we have cast literally any of our spells, we can shut off counter spells. And that is just a play pattern that is allowed to exist because of Urza's Saga. Note that we do have a free spell of our own Grief, but if we do follow this play pattern, then we can just hardcast the Grief because we already are probably at 3 or 4 mana by the time this Urza Saga goes away, even counting the fact that the Urza Saga itself is gone. There's more I could say here, but we've seen enough Mono Black on this channel that I think we can just go ahead and hop into the matches. All right, we're looking at a weird opening hand here where I can Bayou, Chrome Mox, imprint some card, play Stalker, hope that they scale up. I think I'm going to keep it. I need to reset this upkeep stop. I imagine I'll need it. Okay, now we're seeing Brian actually do some nice Dark Ritual gaming. I am unsure what is the worst stuff here. I think it's just Thoughtseize. So I think I am going to just put 2 Stalkers into play, call it a turn, and hope to kind of strike back in force versus this cavalry. I'll need a fetch land or something to kind of really make this pop off. I'm taking damage from the cavalry here. It is a Brainstorm before my Bowmaster comes down. And that's not really what I'm looking for. I did not scale these up successfully. Brian doesn't have land too. I think I'm just going to go ahead and Sorcery Speed cast a Bowmaster. There's a Daze. Sure. So I will send my Stalkers in. Now Bowmaster went to the graveyard, so I did descend this turn, meaning that these creatures scale up. Exsanguinator Cavalry gets bigger by 1 every turn. My creatures, in theory, get bigger by 2 every turn. I think that Brian is still currently favored, although he is quite choked on mana. Some of those things like Dark Ritual and March of Wretched Sorrow are going to be particularly good right now. That is an Ancient Tomb that does not really help me do my thing. So I'm going to go in for 2. 20. Reanimate a Bowmaster. Good enough for a Force of Will. I will reanimate a Bowmaster again. Alright, in play. Target Brian with it. Ancient Tomb does not cast this Stalker, so that's just my turn. I'm going to take this hit. I am a little worried that this Cavalry is just going to solo me. I can maybe technically turn this into a removal spell later, but it's got a big booty right now. Okay. I'm not taking 2 off Ancient Tomb. My life total is very precious. The Bowmaster pings Delver. So I could throw the team in front, 2, 4, 5, 6. I could throw the team in front to stop Cavalry. I guess I need to look at this deck list. How many actual removal spells am I playing in this mono black nonsense? Oh. Really? None? Literal? No game 1 removal spells? Okay. I guess that's what the sideboard is for. And do I really have to throw? This is awful. Okay. Okay. Thanks. I hate it. There's the team. So I'm going to have an orc left over when this is all said and done, and my opponent's cantrips get opened up. I don't know that I have any choice, though. I just don't think... since I have literal 0 removal spells, I don't think I get to just, chump block or anything here. Sure. Brian is at 27, which for a Necro Dominance deck is like infinity. Now let's do this with my non-basic land. These blood tokens can be used to loot towards probably a land. Yeah. So that targets my Stalker, which I'm not sure if that's correct, because I can now just sacrifice the Stalker, take 2, fizzle that trigger, and I trade evenly with Bowmaster instead of an Orc being left around. Maybe Brian can't afford my Orc scaling. Damn it. I'm going to hold that. 23. There's a Ponder. I don't have Bowmaster to punish. And then this Surveil can mess with the things from the Ponder. Sure. Haywire Might has power and toughness. That's what it's got going for it right now. 21. I will cast it. This unfortunately tips my hand that I am probably an Urza Saga deck if I am playing Haywire Might. The Chrome Mox might already have indicated that in the Ancient Tombs, but there's another Cavalry. Not great for me. Cavalry is not one of those things that dies to Haywire Might. And Urza Saga Wasteland, problem. I don't know that that Wasteland is going away unless I do this, so I am going to play it out. I think another removal spell does me in. I need to throw both creatures in front of Exsanguinator Cavalry. This potentially leads to a mid-combat blowout with something like a Fatal Push or an Orcish Bowmasters. So that damage was pointed at Haywire Might. This is just the same thing as before, where I just target something and I fizzle this trigger. That damage could go right here at the Orc. Oh, I guess you lose the Cavalry if that's the case. That's probably fine. So I'll take out a blood token, or at least attempt to. So I'm going to have this Urza Saga Wastelanded now. And I imagine that is effectively the end of the game. I'm not drawing hot. So I take 3. I'm at 6. Yep. So that puts me to 5, and then this is lethal combat damage. That'll do. That was not great. I need removal spells. And I really only have 2? I have 2 removal spells in my 75? What the fuck? Okay. And I guess this says Death Touch. But damn, okay. That's not great. I can consider Pithing Needle on Wasteland. I can consider playing a Bauble. I can consider Shoulder's Edicts. My Reanimates are fine. I don't like Thoughtseize. I don't think I want Haywire Might for the Necro Dominance. I don't know. Like, Pithing Needle is very important for Wasteland. Shoulder's Edict is important because I don't have removal in my deck. I think 1 Vexing Bauble is enough. I maybe need Shadow Spear as well. Okay. Maybe cut a Chrome Mox from there. Urza Saga Ancient Tomb hand. I instantly die to Wasteland. I can't cast any of these cards. If Urza Saga does not get Wastelanded, I can get Vexing Bauble a few turns down the line and never expose any of these spells to removal. But this is a, 50% of the time I don't play Magic hand. I don't think I'm into that. Yeah. So, Swamp, Dark Ritual, play 3 creatures on turn 1. Get rid of second Dark Ritual. That'll do. Fetch. Swamp. Dark Rit. Nethergoyf. Stalker. Stalker. I did fetch, so these are 2/2s and are immediately outside of range of Orcish Bowmasters. Nethergoyf is not particularly huge here. I think I'm going to cast a Dazable Pithing Needle immediately. Sure. We are still going for Wasteland. And then I'm going to go ahead and crash on in. Get 6 points of damage. Every point of damage, I think, matters a lot here in a Necro Dominance matchup. Oh man, I could have gotten away with naming Polluted Delta. Oh no. Oh no. That is going to be a 4-for-1. That's disgusting. That's illegal. Yeah, so I'm going to hit for 6. I guess I could have Pithing Needled that, but that is information that I absolutely would not have within this singular game. So I can escape for 3 mana. I'll have land instant creature artifact and graveyard. Ryan, please. I have a family. I have 2 cats. They just want me to attack with black creatures. They told me. So I have a massive disadvantage now. I have the life total advantage, and that's it. Brian has more cards. Brian has the better onboard threat. Brian has better selection. Yikes. We're falling off real quick here. All right, this mono black deck did not get to do its thing. Yep. I'm gonna pass the turn. I'm just gonna hold this land. Maybe make it slightly more likely that Bayou gets wastelanded. Keep the 4 mana so that I can slam like a grief if that happens. Any counter spells here backing up what Brian is doing is just so incredibly strong now, though. And cavalry. That's another 1/1. Yeah, sure. I guess I play this. This is not where I want to be. Yeah, I'll block a Bowmaster. We can trade. Yeah, but I don't think I have any real ability to come back from behind. I have 2 removal spells in my entire deck. Yeah, absolutely just dead. GG's. Due to time constraints and trying to push out this content very quickly, I'm not going to record a conclusion today that has kind of all of my general thoughts. Instead, I'm going to say, come back tomorrow for more content that features all of these sweet Modern Horizons 3 cards. And if you liked any of the particular decks that you saw, I am probably going to do a full league with them as soon as the cards are available to the general public. So consider subscribing. There's going to be a lot more. And should you find that you need Modern Horizons cards, and you probably will, TOAmagic.com is the place to go. Use promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. And folks, I am so excited to be trying out these Modern Horizons cards in early access so that I can get this content out to you all ASAP. I'm very happy with the Magic Online Creator Program so far, and here's to looking forward to how Modern Horizons 3 cracks open the Legacy metagame. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.